Hi guys, my name is Mayana. Welcome to Maya Core, and today I'm going to be talking about why dark romance must be stopped. But before we get into this video, I just want you guys to know that this video is sponsored by Parade. I'm sure if you've seen any of my videos, then you notice that I'm almost always just shy of a nip slip, and it is because I hate bras. I hate the way that they make me feel. I hate the way that you have to like clamp them in the front and then turn them around and put them on in the same way to take them off. I don't like the padding. I just don't like them. So around 10 years ago I just stopped wearing them completely, but that is not professional. So when Parade messaged me to do a sponsored video, I was super excited. Parade is very inclusive and has something for everyone from different sizes and different options of bras, underwear, pajamas, and more. This corset that I'm wearing is actually from Parade, and another thing about me is that I love wearing corsets. I love how it like snatches my waist. It makes me feel. But one thing I don't like about corsets is how like, because I wear them most of the time in my videos, I feel like they're like kind of stabbing me at times and they feel uncomfortable, and luckily I'm usually only wearing them for about an hour or so, and so I can take it off immediately. But this one like doesn't have that same feeling. Like I don't have to worry about that, and like even the back, like it's tight enough that it snatches my waist, and it but it's not too tight to the point where I feel like I can't breathe. And even when I'm sitting down to film this video, there's nothing that feels like uncomfortable. Like this is a very comfortable corset, which I feel like is not easy to find. I also really like these straps here because I feel like it does a lot of like lifting. It just gives you what you want in a corset. Like it lifts and it squeezes, but it's not uncomfortable, and I really like that about this. This is something that could be worn as like an outfit or lingerie. Another thing that I have been wearing is this cute little bralette. First of all, I really love the star design on it, but also it feels really good to be worn. It's something that I can wear around the house as pajamas or something under my outfits, which I think is really great. Parade currently has a TYSM sale that is running from November 21st to November 29th, and a BFCM sale that is running from November 29th to December 3rd. The sale is 30% off site-wise, but my audience gets a 50% off. Use my code BOOKS-BF for 50% off worldwide, and hurry because things sell out fast on their site. Now let's get back into the video. I'm gonna be so honest with y'all, I did not script this video. I think it's gonna be very obvious I didn't script this video. This isn't really like a video essay. I guess this is just more me talking to the camera about something that I feel passionate about. And I feel like I didn't need to script out the video, but I guess we'll see what happens. I don't think it's that serious. Like I don't think people are gonna watch this video like, she didn't script it. Psh, whatever. I do all my videos, I always give you this like backstory of my life so that you know that like I am not someone who is critiquing this because I'm a hater, but because I have been in this, like because I've been here before or because I feel so passionate about this. So growing up I used to read a lot of like Wattpad books, and back on Wattpad, it was back when I was on Wattpad, it was like when we were all the same age. I wasn't in high school yet, and it was me going from middle school to high school, and like I was reading smut from a very young age when I wasn't supposed to, and I felt comfortable with that because it was a lot of other people who were my age. Fan fiction started to make its way onto Wattpad, and I feel like it kind of just like changed it, and a lot of things changed, and there would be people who would upload real books to like Wattpad but then change the character's name to whatever fandom they were in. So like, fun fact about me, one of my favorite books that I read in high school was The Duff, and I actually read it as a Justin Bieber fan fiction. So it's already a published book, right? And I know this is illegal now, but in high school I didn't know any better. So it's already a published book, and so what somebody would do is they would take the PDF, they would copy everything, they would change the name West to Justin, and then that's how I read it. And I didn't know it was a real book, and I loved it so much. I was like, oh my gosh. And I got to the end, and the person was like, yeah, this is a real book, this is The Duff. And I read The Duff, and it was like the exact same thing, and I was like, this book is great. I made my sister read it. My sister loved it. We actually ended up reading another book by this author. She's a messy, the author is messy. The author is messy. These books are so messy. But yeah, so I used to read dark romance on Wattpad, but they would be published books. If you watch my romance video, a lot of these points I already talk about. But I didn't start reading romance. I switched from YA romance to adult romance back in 2019. I read my first adult romance, which was The Wedding Date by Jasmine Guillory, and I read that in like summer, I believe. And then I was like, it's Fade to Black. Also, this wasn't really that good. But then it was literally January 2019. I came across an author, LJ Shin. Well, she's problematic now, and it was the book Vicious, and it was about this girl who, damn, do I remember what this book is about? It was about this girl who was like picked on by this guy in her class, and then it's a few years no, she lived with his family because her family worked for him, so he would kind of sometimes pick on her. And then it's fast forwards to the future, and he's now rich and she has like work for him, and there's like this, it was so good. But that was considered dark romance back then. That was dark romance back in 2019. Penelope Douglas, I don't remember when I first read Penelope Douglas. It had to be a few months after that, because after that I was like, oh my gosh, this book. I tried to get my sister to read it. My sister was like, what the fuck is this bullshit? I'm like, no, I'm not reading this dumb shit. Because the thing about dark romance is that it's very poorly written. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, it's so corny. Sometimes you gotta be like, you gotta get through the first 50 to 100 pages in those books, because like once you're in it, like you're in it. But if you're not in it, you're like, what the fuck am I reading? Like, you're like, what, girl, what is this? And that was a wake-up call for my sister, for me, because my sister also reads. She doesn't read as much anymore, but she still reads, which I'm happy to have that. And so we have a lot of the same taste in reading. We're both very critical. She's actually more critical than me, honestly. But when she said, what the fuck is this, I was like, this might be bad. This might actually be terrible. Like, yeah. But I was so intrigued by the dark romance because it reminded me of the Wattpad books that I used to read when I was in high school and growing up and stuff like that. And it gave me everything that I wanted, but it was published and it was adult. And so I don't know when, but then I started to move on to Penelope Douglas. And when you are starting to get from like LJ Shin and Penelope Douglas, a thing about it is Penelope Douglas, they're insane. For me, this is fiction. I never took it that serious. I don't remember what was the first one I read by Penelope Douglas was Bully, and my best friend Mika recommended it to me. I used to really love bully romances. It's one of my favorite. I don't have guilty pleasures. I don't believe in feeling guilty about the things that I enjoy, but it would be what some would call a guilty pleasure. It's not something that I read anymore, which is unfortunate. I love bully romances, but I can't read them anymore because they all take place in high school and I'm a grown-ass woman. What the fuck am I gonna do with this? What am I gonna do? And then if I'm reading, you can't read bully romances outside of like high school books. Like, you can read like a bully romance college story, but it's like, why the fuck are you being bullied in college? Okay, there's no such thing as like a bully romance like workplace. I mean, there probably is, but why the fuck would you allow some grown-ass men to be bullied, you know? So it only makes sense in that like bubble. So that was the very first, like, that was the very first Penelope Douglas book I read, and I was like, oh, this is tea. This is so good. So then I moved up. We read Corrupt. Me and Mika buddy read it. It was terrible, but it was so intriguing and it was insane. They were like in catacombs, and it was about these guys who were like the Four Horsemen, and every fucking dark romance book back then had like a group of 4 guys, and they were always the 4 horsemen. There was no originality in there, but they were like the 4 horsemen, and they were really rich, and they had been in jail, and she sent them to jail, and she was dating one of the guy's brothers, and like he wanted to get revenge on her, but then it's like very erotic at the same time. So it's like dark, but it's like erotic, and so it's like you get the best of both worlds, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is so tea. And then I moved on to Credence. Okay, so my camera actually overheated, and so in that time I was able to actually write a script. So I don't remember where I left off, but basically for a while after that, dark romance books had dark themes like mafia men involved with mafia like activities, and just men doing really dark things. But it wasn't like, it was like, I don't know, it was like intense in a feeling, but it wasn't like psychotic. It wasn't like stalker. It wasn't like this man kidnapped me type of thing. And like, yeah, they existed. I'm not saying they didn't exist at all, but like now almost every other dark romance book has that theme in it. I just feel like Book Talk came along and switched things up, and it went from authors just writing this because it's what they loved to authors literally writing it to see who could get the most insane plot line to get people to read it, versus like genuinely writing something that they enjoy. Example I have is the book Haunting Adeline. If you don't know what Haunting Adeline is, there's a bunch of like videos about like video reviews or rant reviews on it where they go exactly through the book and things like that. But just like a brief overview, it is this book about this girl who ends up inheriting her grandma's house, and once she moves into the house, she ends up being stalked by this guy who owns a cyber stalking security, and it's like a romance, so they end up, yes, falling in love. I did read that because back on my Wattpad days, I used to read a lot of that when I was like in high school. And like stalker romances were popular back in those days. And I was like really intrigued by the side plot. I think I ended up giving it like a 3-star, which I feel like is too high. But like I like there's a side plot where like the main character finds the grandma's journals, and she ends up like, the grandma's journals are insane and like her storyline is crazy, and there's like this like, is the house haunted type of thing. But it was 600 pages. Okay, not only was it 600 pages, but it was 2 books, and they both not just one, not 600 pages together, 2 books, 600 pages each. And I ended up finding out that the grandma's plot line went nowhere. So why would I sit through another 600 pages? Also, it didn't need to be 600 pages. I don't know what it is with romance authors writing 600-page romance. It's like my mortal enemy. Like, I feel like if you watch any of my videos that I've done and I talk about romance, I'm always gonna somehow slip in there that romances don't need to be over 320 pages. Okay, 350 is pushing it for me. I used to read a lot of stalker romances when I was in high school because I didn't know any better and I was young. And I didn't really love them, like I wasn't obsessed with them, but I would read them because they were popular in like my friend groups and I wanted to be in the know. So I would read them and I'd be like, oh haha, that was fun, but I wasn't like obsessed with it. Then when I read Haunting Adeline as an adult, I was an adult, so I'm too like ingrained in real life for me to be like, imagine if this was, imagine if, like, I just can't, like I just know that realistically it doesn't work like that. And a man who is willing to stalk you is a man who is willing to kill you. Just like how a man who's willing to put his hands on you is a man who will kill you. That it's just like, it's something that I know, and it's not something that I can get behind. There's also a scene where he like pulls out a gun and it's like a very sexual scene, and it's like, realistically I know that this does not work. So the author has a book, I didn't read the book, but the author has this book about a girl who steals this guy's identity, and then somehow they end up on a boat together to go to this island. I think it's like a storm coming, I don't know, I didn't read the book, I've only had it explained to me. And they end up having sex in the boat, and she's bleeding and she's afraid of sharks, and he pushes her head in the water while they're having sex, and she's afraid of sharks and she's bleeding. That's a actual sex scene that happened. There was art that ended up going viral on Twitter, and that's an actual thing that happens in a book. And it just feels like these romance authors are trying to see who can write the most insane things so that readers can read them. And like, people aren't even thinking autonomy wise how that works. Like when authors describe sex scenes, I personally am actually trying to envision, how is this working? I'm not somebody who just, you know, being like, okay, this is what the author says it goes. I'm literally trying to be like body wise, like how is this working? And in a lot of romances, it's not. And a lot of romances, it's not making sense. I remember watching a rant review, and it was from Sarah Without an H, and I don't remember what book it was, but it was like a dark romance book. It was one of her videos where she was reading dark romance books, and she was talking about how there was a scene where the guy is trying to do the girl with like a knife, like the back half of the knife, but the way that the scene was working, like realistically he would have been getting stabbed in the leg over and over again with where the knife was placed. And it's like, do authors think about, like, do authors just go, I just want to think about what will be sexy, what can we do with this dangerous weapon, and not like realistically how is this working? I don't know, I just don't understand how people are just being like, okay, whatever, that works. Because when I'm reading it, I'm genuinely trying to figure out, how is this working? Even when I'm reading monster romances, I'm trying to think, how is this working? Yeah, he got 12 tentacles, but how? And monster romances never fail to tell you in detail how this is working because they understand the assignment. Okay? Yes, I am here defending monster romances. It's one of my favorite genres because it's genuinely good, it's very diverse, and I never have to worry about not seeing a character that looks like me in the book. So I don't care, they're good, and I highly recommend them. And there's a little something for everybody, the gays, the people of color, the trans, everybody. And also the dedications to these books. The dedications are always very corny. It's always like, good girl, Or like, this is for the girls who love Damon Salvatore. What happened to dedicating books to your mom? What happened to that? I was gonna do this fun segment where I went through like a bunch of TikToks, and I actually did go through the dark romance TikToks and actually fucked up my algorithm trying to find some. Just trying to find like, cause you know like how you'll be on Twitter and you'll see like a random screenshot and then it'll be like when he rips your heart out and stomps on it and then fucks you with it type of shit. I've never seen nothing like that before, but let's pretend it's not too far off, right? I was looking for something like that, but that's something that has to find you instead of you looking for it. Because when I went to go look, I looked up dark romance book recs, and it was literally just people who wouldn't explain to you what the book was about. Like, it's just being like, oh, if you like this book, then read this. Or like, oh, if you like, here's some recommendations. And it would just be a bunch of pictures, but like nobody's talking about what the books are about. And then I would go on like Unhinged, and the same thing was popping up. Like, I'm looking for some scenes. I end up going down a rabbit hole that I am not willing to go down for this YouTube channel, okay? That took me to places that I would not go with a gun, okay? I'm never doing that again. So unfortunately, we're not gonna have a fun Kiki book talk section. You're just gonna have to find it on, like, I'm sorry. Like, what kind of video is this? I don't have the evidence. You're gonna have to go and type it in yourself. That's all I have for this video. I think this video was really fun. Like, not being for the first half, not being like, not having a script for the first half and just sitting down and talking about my thoughts. It was really fun, and it's like just talking about something that I find important, that like I know isn't important, and it's just something I've been thinking about for a really long time. I don't know, I thought it was fun. What do you guys, did you guys have fun? I had fun. But yeah, that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.